And here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter, I was born to walk alone. 'Cause I know what it means to walk alone the lonely street of dreams. Hey guys, welcome back to another stream of Work on a Dream with me. Andrew Loomis. Hey Z, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. And good luck cleaning your room. 'Cause I know what it means to walk alone the street of dreams. Alright, sounds good, Z. Sounds good. Let's play something in the background. What should we listen to?
There are a lot of streaming services out there that focus on entertaining.
But today's sponsor, Wondrium, sets itself apart from the rest. That's because they provide you with thousands of hours of entertaining and educational content that covers a huge range of topics. Draftsman listeners will get their first year for just $99 when they use our special URL, wondrium.com/draftsman. That's wondrium.com/draftsman. This offer won't last, so check it out today. Therapy can be a great way to manage your mental health, but in a busy world, it can be difficult to fit into your day-to-day schedule. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, a service that aims to make therapy accessible and convenient by offering affordable counseling that you can access securely right from your smartphone or computer. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Draftsman listeners can try BetterHelp and get 10% off their first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/draftsman.
Cool.
It is recording.
We're set. All right.
Okay.
Woo!
Wow. So this is a real Draftsman podcast
It
back
sure is.
in the real studio with us in person.
Okay.
It's my job to interview.
Are we gonna play the intro theme song?
Oh yeah.
Low do 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 do, low do 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 do, do 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 do. It's a Draftsman show.
Yeah.
Is that what it says at the Draftsman show?
Yes. You
didn't know
forgot?
what your own
I
intro said?
never knew that's what it was saying.
Wait, what?
I never knew it was the
I
Draftsman
really
show.
wanna
You didn't know the
what-
name of our podcast.
I
I
really
knew
want.
that it was the name of our podcast. I didn't know that's what it was singing.
I really want to know what you thought it was saying.
Wait, what? Yeah, what did you think? Wow.
I just thought it was kind of scat singing. I didn't know.
3.
Hi Stan, how are you
What
doing
up,
today?
Marshall? Welcome back to
We're
the studio.
back in the studio. This is the real thing.
It's still here. It's been here this whole time.
Oh,
Waiting for
Yeah,
you.
for you.
wow. I feel so happy. This is so comfortable. It's
It really has just been here. It hasn't moved.
yeah.
It's weird.
Oh well, it's just great to be back in the studio. And
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to do today?
Well, we're going to talk about that little book right there.
Oh, this
You're-
book, The Talent
that you're
Code.
holding.
Yes.
What are we doing today? I forgot.
Yeah.
The Talent Code by Doyle.
Daniel
Doyle?
Coyle. Daniel
Combine
Coyle.
his first name and last name.
Yeah, Daniel Coyle.
Doyle.
Coyle. Okay.
Yeah.
And why?
When I read it many years ago, it stuck with me. There's a lot of stuff in there that I really liked.
Well, you recommended that I read this in 2015, and I read it in January.
Was it that
Yeah,
long
it was
ago?
January 2015. And I really liked it then.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked it more on this. I had a criticism, but I liked it more on the second round, and I have been really immersed in this book.
Good.
And so I'm just eager to sit down and have this conversation with you.
Igor is my father.
Oh, I thought it was Igor.
Igor.
Is it Igor?
Igor.
Okay.
Dan, you made this joke.
Wait, isn't it like 11 p.m.? Didn't you get a sleep schedule? Yeah, I did. But now, instead of this being at the beginning of the day, it's at the end of the day. Because today in the morning, I had to go get my mom from the hospital and stuff because she had surgery. So doing a stream before I sleep, pretty much.
Okay. Well, let's see. This is the third self-help book that we have reviewed.
No, it's
Well, let's see. There was Art and Fear,
yes,
which
and there
was
the one right
about
after that, but also about
The War of
War
Art.
of Art. I mean, I did a small book review of, God.
Yeah, but we're talking about books that we read together, though, right?
Oh,
Yeah. But go ahead. You did a small book on the learning one, the chess guy, the
What's the book called?
You just ate. That's the issue.
I just ate. My brain is not firing.
I'll be happy to take charge and walk you through this book, and we'll wake up Stan now and then.
Yeah. I have a lot of notes,
Okay.
but not about that other. Jesus, what?
Josh
Josh?
Waitzkin.
Josh? Yes.
The Art of Learning.
That's it.
What's that?
I
What
think
it
that's
was?
Marshall, you conjured it into being.
You didn't even read it.
I didn't ever read it, but I loved your report on it because
Yeah.
it would have things in common with this one.
Yeah, they're all about learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this one goes more into like a little bit into the science of it, and just like very practical tips on like exactly how to practice to make it as efficient as possible.
Well, I'm eager to read the Josh Waitzkin
Igor
book.
is my father.
Yeah, I know. I am looking forward to reading that book because I feel like the Art and Fear book was a good book. It was about how art is good and fear is bad, and we don't want fear. And it was sort of a beware fear. The War of Art.
Fear.
Yeah, it was that. The War of Art was life is suffering, art is war, get used to it.
Are you doing book reviews of the
I'm trying to
books?
orient us here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, art is going to be difficult. And so if you're going to succeed at it, get in there and get to work or I'll kick your butt.
Yeah.
And then this one was look at how awesome these people are.
Yeah.
How did they do it? Well, we can find out. Look at how good these people are. Let's see what they did. It didn't happen by accident. So this was...
Well, he's pretty much saying it's not because of talent. It's called the Talent Code.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, no, it wasn't because of talent. Read the subtitle of the book.
The Talent Code. Greatness isn't born, it's grown. Here's how.
That pretty much describes
Daniel Coyle, 2009.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, that's.
I needed to see
the first subtitle, not the subtitle.
Yeah, well, I could read that Tom Peters says,
you
I am
can
willing
read
to
the
guarantee
copyright
that you
info.
will not read a more important and useful book in this year or any other, any year. Wow, that's high praise from Tom Peters.
All right, now just read the whole book.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start here?
Well, I have mentioned a bunch of stuff from this book throughout our 3 seasons. I mean, I've come back to this book as often as you go back to Psychology of Performance, or is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should have Daniel Coyle.
Daniel Coyle. I'm sure if he's watching this, he'll be so pleased.
He doesn't know my name.
On you can't remember his name. I can
Doyle.
tell when I was going through this.
Yeah.
I had more high praise for his influence on you and your influence on me because of the fact that talent is developed, it's grown, it's
Just
nurtured.
made
Yeah.
my own
I don't think
necklace out of
he
chains,
says that there's no such thing as like
chances, and
genetics
memory. Wait,
and
what are
environment,
chances?
right?
He doesn't say that,
He
but
doesn't say
he
he doesn't-
leans that way.
He leans that way because there's no point of leaning the other way because you can't control it. It's done, right? Like that's you've got your genetics, you're not going to change it. So but it doesn't matter because you can develop a skill even if you're not naturally like gifted, whatever that means, in an area because of myelin. He goes into
yeah.
myelin.
You want to take up
in
the
the beginning.
counter argument for a minute or two, though?
Sure.
The counter argument would be, let me just take up the counter argument sincerely.
Okay.
I do believe in talent, and I
Yeah.
can't not believe in talent. And when I was in my mid-20s, and I had read Psycho-Cybernetics 3 times, and I remember thinking, what's talent? We've all got the same cells in our body. We've got the same organs in our body.
No,
It's just,
no, we don't.
the thing is, we share.
clones of each other, right?
Yeah, we're exactly the same.
We
person.
share a universal anatomy and that kind of thing.
the same system.
The same system. Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that means, shouldn't we just be able to say, I'm going to do it and then find the means to do it?
yeah.
Now, I mentioned this. one time.
JPEGs have the same system, but pictures look very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned this once to Wanda Duncan, who was listening to me as I pitched why I didn't think there was such a thing as talent. And she went, Marshall, if you don't think there's such a thing as talent, you should try teaching in college for a while.
Well, there's a lot of things there that are not just about talent. I mean, he also talks about so there's this is a good trying to bring this up. He says the way to get good at something is deep practice.
Mm-hmm.
There's ignition
Mm-hmm.
and masterful coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are the three
Yeah.
things. So college, maybe a lot of people miss that ignition part of it. They don't. They're not motivated to.
It was catchy, that's a big
practice
reason.
deeply.
She might have said, Marshall, you should try raising 3 children.
Actually,
that
the
came from
necklace
same
just broke
2
itself,
parents'
so there is
bodies."
that. Oh,
She might have said,
I'm sorry about
when you
that.
compare how one person gets a certain kind
Hopefully you
of,
can pick it up
has an inkling
and
towards
make it
something,
again.
a certain kind of
That's the ignition. Well, okay, so yeah, there could be ignition very early on in a child, which
but
promotes
wait,
certain...
we don't want to. This is not the point to debate it. This is the thing that I do think
Yeah.
that we are born with some raw material.
Yes, absolutely. Our brains are wired differently from
Yeah.
birth. It's like we already have a brain when
Yeah.
we're born, which is, not completely developed, but it's a functional human.
Yes.
Like it.
And we could even take it another way.
Yeah.
Why is it that 2 people who we could say are supposedly equally talented, equally trained, why is it that one inclines toward one style of art and another toward another style of art? Now, before you answer, the observation of it is that there are things that are mysterious. There are things we just don't know, and we
Yeah.
put labels on that. And the advantage of putting a label on that is that it does create some awe. It creates some wonder of where did you come from and
Right.
where
So you
did
just
that
want to say
talent.
talent. You want to say talent just because you don't understand it. But like, I feel like there's just too many variables for us to be able to explain why one person is this way and another person is that way.
Yeah.
There's like thousands and thousands of variables around us that just make us go towards one way or our specific path in life. If you're born half a second later, you might be a different person. I
Well,
don't
now
know.
that since we've so beautifully developed this thing about talent exists.
Yeah, great counter argument, but yeah. Talent, I don't think he says talent isn't a real
he doesn't say
thing.
that talent
Genetics
doesn't
is
exist.
real. We are wired differently. Some people are actually taller
Okay.
than other
Yes,
people.
that's right. That's right.
This is
yeah,
a
yeah.
fact.
There's a difference.
And being taller will make you better at certain activities.
Yeah.
This is not anything that's not about developing skill to be taller. There are certain things that make you better. Your ears might work better than someone else's ears. Your eyes might work better. These are
Okay, we
He's
made
facts.
point one.
Yes.
Talent exists.
Yes, talent exists.
This is really interesting.
Yeah.
Now, where do we
Woo.
go?
Well, now let's focus on, okay, you've got your talents. Everyone's got their own unique talents.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got you got to get some ignition. You got to get some gas in the fire. You just put some wood in there, ignite, get motivated on something.
Yeah.
And then once you're motivated, now you got deep practice.
Let's try
what
this.
He puts a lot of emphasis on deep practice.
Yes, he does. But you're using terms that a person who's new to
Yes,
this.
we should explain.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How would you? Do you want to start with a summing up of what he gets at in this book? He says,
I thought we just did that.
yeah, but you used words like myelin and deep practice, etc.
Yeah.
It's that this is excellence can be attained, and the big thing that he hammers on over and over is that it's measurable or at least quantifiable physically through a microscope about what happens when we, quote, gain talent.
Yeah, I think to sum it up, I think what he says is that you can get good at something by focused strategic practice that is just a little bit beyond our current abilities.
Yeah.
So that we make mistakes and constantly correct ourselves.
Yeah.
That is like kind of summing up. He goes into detail about like pretty much every word I just said.
Yeah.
So like he talks, what is focused strategic practice? How do you do that? Going a little bit beyond what you're comfortable with. What is that? How do you do that? Making mistakes and why that's important and how to correct yourself and all these things he goes into to detail about. But like that kind of summarizes pretty much. It's not enough to go through the motions to practice. You have to do it deliberately and constantly make mistakes. Don't just be doing the safe thing and just kind of like, whatever.
Now I can imagine a person saying, do I need to read a book to tell me that practice should be a little bit hard?
You don't, but I mean, he gives you very specific examples and you know what to look for.
I loved the example.
Yeah, the examples are great.
Let's start with the one in the introduction, because the introduction sold me on the book. It was the girl who did a month's worth of practice in 6 minutes. Clarissa, I think, was her name. She's practicing the violin, and there was video of her.
Wait, so I read this book 5 years ago, and I took a whole bunch of notes, and I reviewed my notes.
Okay.
And it was enough for me, but I think it was enough. But I didn't write anything about that story. Can you tell the story?
It had to do with some research of music students practicing. And it's so prosaic. This girl is trying to practice a violin passage, and she makes a mistake, and then she pauses and corrects the mistake, and then she continues.
All right, take your time, Z.
To correct the mistake. And within that 6 minutes, she got a grip on what she was doing, and he uses this as a little paradigm, a 6-minute paradigm of what can happen along a whole arc toward mastery. And you might say, well, so what? You work on something, make a mistake, and then correct it. But one of the points he makes is that we tend to go for things that are more comfortable.
Yeah.
So we tend to practice stuff we're already good at and become hacks by doing the same thing over and over. But he did not emphasize hackiness. He did not emphasize the negative side of this. He emphasized the positive side of embracing discomfort and our own mistakes. So that he even used
mistakes as a compass to guide us to improvement.
Yeah.
Like every time that you make a mistake, you should get excited because this is like an opportunity to get better.
That was one of the most encouraging things about the book. He used the staggering baby trying to learn how to walk. And if the staggering baby was to say, this is too hard and give up, the staggering baby takes delight in the area where they are not walking well. And so they just keep going at it and going at it and going at it. So again, he's got probably
crawling is easier or more comforting.
That's right. He's got about a dozen things like that, to where it's the call to embrace and even to enjoy and even to be enthusiastic about where you're not good, to celebrate where you're not good, with the attitude that if I just explore around in here long enough, I'm going to get good at this. And that one after another, after another, after another of those thousands of times leads to something that is so awe-inspiring that people just say, wow, what a talent you've been given.
Yeah. He has another story towards the end that I really enjoyed, because when I read it, it was, I think Melissa was pregnant, so it's related to kids and how you talk to them. So he says that if you tell your child after some kind of success, good job, you're so smart, that will basically promote more like, oh, I'm naturally this way, so I'm just
Hey,
gonna keep
welcome
trying
back,
to
C.
look smart and do things that make me smart. So they naturally will just try to like do things that are easy, where they can guarantee success. Versus if you, instead of the same success, you say, good job, you worked hard, they'll associate that with the practice is what led to success and why my parents are happy, because I practiced and I got better at something. And so they will constantly look for more things they can get better at. So just those simple ways of phrasing and promoting hard work versus promoting being smart.
Yes, and some dramatic examples of that were research oriented, where they were putting with control groups and seeing how just giving a person a compliment on who they are and what they are like makes them do worse, tends to make them do worse than to say, gosh, I'm so pleased with how hard you worked on that. Mm-hmm. That's one example after another of that was enough to where I was feeling like this is what it's claiming to be. This is a secret bit of knowledge that if we know where to congratulate ourselves, where to congratulate each other, that it is not on who you are, which leads to entitlement, which leads to the fear of losing that identity of who I am. The encouragement to keep making yourself uncomfortable, because that is so great what's coming out of it.
Right.
Tell me some of your favorite parts about it.
I want to get one from early on in the book, so that Oh yeah, no, this is my favorite one, because this is kind of an example of deep practice. This was the Brazilian soccer team.
Yes.
And how, or the Brazilian soccer kids play a different version of soccer. And I think I've told this story, right?
But it's okay. Tell it again, because this is an interesting story.
So this version of soccer, they use a smaller ball. It's twice the weight. It's heavier.
Yeah.
There's fewer players on the field, and the field is much smaller. And so basically all those things, it's basically an example of deep practice towards playing regular soccer, because everything is made to be more difficult. So fewer players on the field means each player gets more time with the ball. They kick more often because the ball is heavier, and so they got to keep kicking it. It's less forgiving, so they have to be more precise with kicking it and maneuvering it. What else is there? I think it's less forgiving because it's smaller, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, all these things are just preparing them to play real soccer. And so he uses it as an example of ways you can modify the things that you're trying to get good at to practice a little more deeply, like playing with time. I've mentioned that like 20 times already. Like slowing things down so that you can analyze the motions better, and you can learn to be more precise with the motion because you're doing it slower, and you can identify your mistakes better because you're doing it slower. Speeding it up, changing the order of things. So if you're learning music, just take chunks out, move them around, and then just practice playing those parts separately so that you really get comfortable with every piece as its own. So I think he calls it chunking, right? So
chunking, yeah.
Chunking, you observe the whole, then you break it up into small pieces, and you observe each piece. Whether that's one motion is broken up into pieces, right? Like if you're learning how to play golf, there's a lot of parts to having a good golf swing, right? Level of your shoulders, the position of your hands, the the way your hips move. I don't play golf, so I don't the speed at which you do it, the arc. I don't know, whatever. But all of those things, you can break them up and practice each individually and just get really good at everything and look at the whole.
Yeah.
Slow down the motion, make it faster, hit a different ball, get a heavier club. I don't know.
It's similar, though, to, it's a more sophisticated version of swinging a bat with a weight on it.
Yeah.
You're trying to make this harder.
Yes.
So that when you do the actual thing, it feels easier. You're over-preparing yourself in a way.
Yes.
But it's not just that, because the first thing you mentioned about getting a picture of the whole means that you get the context of this.
Right.
You're seeing that my objective is to have a career. My objective is to win the game. My objective is to do this play well. My objective is to make this kick accurate. And so you're taking it from big all the way down to the small parts. And it's a bit like a mechanic taking apart a car and knowing every part of it, and even being able to know how I'd know how to manufacture that part. It's just getting your head around the thing that takes a few years to get your head around.
And there's other things he mentions, like do it with your eyes closed so that you engage other senses and you focus on all the other senses that have to be. Oh, hey, that might not be in this book.
What was that?
He has another book called The Little Book of Talents or Talent.
Huh?
Yeah, he does have another book called Little Book of Talents, and I might be getting it from that. But he talks about doing things with your eyes closed, doing things backwards.
Yeah. I don't think he mentioned. Well, I don't know.
It's probably from the other book.
But here's what happened when I read this. I did a deep read on this.
Okay.
And I found myself making so many notes to myself and wanting to talk about it with everybody, because even when he gets to the point of how a soccer player will practice and how you can chunk it up, it ignites in me, hey, you could also do this.
What's
hey,
that?
You could also do that. Hey, you could also slow it down in a way that...
Did you come up with any for art? Because he doesn't use like art for as any examples. It's always like sports, mostly sports, and then like chess and music. Did you come up with any ways of practicing drawing?
When we did the podcast on expressionism, which we called expressionism, the abstract expressionist one, yes, some of those came from having read this the first time and having incubated in me for a few years. The memory drawings that Nicolaides called daily compositions were something I integrated in like I never had before. The reveries, the photo quests, etc.
Daily composition. So this is part of chunking. You're focusing on
This is part of chunking, that you're focusing on one thing at a time. But I want to answer your question.
Okay, yeah, you can.
The question was, did I come up with specific things?
Yeah, for art. As you were reading it, and he gives you all these examples of all this different.
Yes.
These different things. Were you thinking about artists and how you can apply it to?
After reading it the first time was where I locked more into, for composition studies, black and white puzzle pieces for no tan. I'd always had students do it, but I started to figure, let's just start for the first 30 or 40 or 100 comp studies, only puzzle piece metaphors. Because puzzle piece metaphors keep it simple. But puzzle piece metaphors are not enough. And then to go from puzzle pieces to where, since each puzzle piece is like a trap, how would your eye get out of that trap? Now we move to edges. Puzzle pieces are sharp edges. Are you going to have a way to get out of this? And then we find other metaphors. How do you get in and out of a room? It's not just a completely open room. It's not a painting with no edges. There's going to be walls. There's going to be windows. There's going to be doors. There's going to be gazebos. So switching from one metaphor to another, to another, to another, to where in a composition class, you've got about a dozen ways that you've looked at your picture. And each one of them, as Nicolaides would say, shines the spotlight on a separate discipline, independent of the others, so that the student can naturally assimilate different ways of looking at a picture and understanding it. And I feel more excited. I did not realize that how much of that came from him chastising me to not just tell people study masters, study masters, study masters, but that part of my job as a teacher is to give specific ways to study masters.
He does have a big section on masterful coaching.
That's another, but the masterful coaching one is a 5 or 10 minute conversation on its own.
Yeah.
Let me quickly explain ignition and say how this. Why don't you want to start with ignition?
No, you explain it.
Okay.
And I'll
Well,
chime in.
he had a chapter in there called Primal Cues. It was one of my favorite chapters, and it was about the fact that sometimes just a little thing in your life can trigger a whole bunch of things for the rest of your life, and it cannot be predicted. But it's like just one little match, one little spark grabbed somebody, and then everything changed after that. In fact, there was an argument to be made that, with some research about how, you remember the birthday thing?
Oh, where like kids whose birthday is like in January versus like February,
No,
where
no.
it goes to the.
That's a whole other thing.
Wait, is this?
This
am I
was-
thinking of a
You were thinking of another thing.
another book?
About like, are you more likely to succeed at one sport than another because you were born here, and that means you're going to get into this league at this age
Yeah.
just before? Is that what you're
Yes.
thinking? Yeah.
yeah,
That's an
I'm
interesting
mixing
thing
up
too.
books.
This is a whole other thing.
Yeah. Okay.
They did some research to see how long students would spend on a math problem.
Okay.
And so they had students work on this math problem after reading an encouraging story from a person who wasn't good at math and got good at math. A student like you. But on some of them, that student who's talking about how they got good at math, they gave them the birth date falsely. That's the same birth date of the person
Oh
taking the test.
man! Oh, that's brilliant.
And it changed the amount of time they would spend solving the problem. And it was not that they consciously had to say, I'm born on the same day this person was. This was a subconscious ignition.
This is what I wrote about ignition. It's an external trigger that motivates us to get good at something. It makes us believe that we can achieve this thing. So it makes it achievable. The birthday thing is brilliant because kids identify their birthday as their day. Like, today is my day,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's rare to share a birthday with someone you know,
Yeah.
like, or another kid that you always hang out with. So it's like, today's your day.
Yeah.
And if someone else has that your day, it's like they're very much like you, or it's like they are you.
Yeah.
They identify strongly.
Now, having mentioned, though, the ignition thing,
Yeah.
that you see someone like you and so you can say, I can do it. There's an opposite thing that happens too. Okay, I got to tell a story
Okay.
about a chimpanzee.
Great. That's
It
my
was an
favorite type of story.
amazing thing, and I saw it with my own eyes. These trainers of chimpanzees came to show animation students. They had a 3-year-old chimpanzee named Cody, and then they had a female who was more like middle-aged, and a male. Each one of them had their own distinct personalities.
Of course.
And this was in a group of all grown-ups. And Cody, the 3-year-old chimpanzee, was full of energy and making his rounds around who's going to give me attention and that kind of thing. But there was
Out of
one
the people?
in this group of people.
Okay.
There was one kid in there, and I'm guessing he was about 10 years old. And Cody got really interested in this kid, and was looking him over because he's the only one here who's like me. And then Cody jumped.
Fortunately, I
And
must
then
leave
the
now.
kid
Goodbye, my
jumped.
friend. Goodbye,
And
Z.
Cody jumped
Goodbye, my
more,
friend. Take
and
care
the
and
kid
good luck
jumped more,
with
and
whatever
Cody
you are
jumped
doing.
to where there was no way a human kid could compete with this. And when Cody landed, he looked at the kid and went,
That's amazing.
it was clearly a display of,
You human.
yeah. And everyone burst into laughter because it was so unvarnished.
Yeah.
But it was also really, really interesting. I've thought about it ever since, that what is important to you? I'm a little one here. There's another one who's bigger than me. He's taller than me, but he can't jump as high as me. And if that's made a lot of people achieve.
Well, there's identity and competition in that one.
Yeah, there is. That's right.
That's an example of both. So what do you... It's just a fun story.
This was a story of showing that some people are motivated by being better than others. Oh, the other
Better than others within their
within
their
or
group.
even the other team. Cody's on one team and the human kid is on another team. and he's letting him know my team's better than yours.
Oh,
Okay.
the humans versus the chimpanzees?
Most of these examples
Huh.
that Daniel Coyle uses are athletic and they're competitive. Chess games, tennis. He uses musical ones that aren't necessarily competitive.
Wait a minute. Hold on a
ahead.
second. Isn't the identity thing in itself competitive already?
No,
No?
no.
It's
I want to tell you why I believe this. Because I was raised in a milieu, my older brother, extremely competitive, and me, as a shadow of that, I don't care about winning, but I cared very much about who are the TV writers, who are the people who write the songs, who are the people that do the things that I admire. And I looked at them never with a sense that I want to be better than other people. I looked at them with a sense of, oh, they are so great. They are so wonderful. I would love to do something like that. And it was not out of a sense of competition. It was out of a sense of admiration and awe and love of somebody who can do work that good.
Did you want to be on the team you were on?
I didn't care to be on a competitive team. But explain how you mean.
I'm just thinking that when you identify with a group,
Mhm.
there is, I mean, maybe it's not always, but it's like, it's us versus them.
No, it was never that. Okay, now what we're doing though is
Yeah.
we're talking about the difference between identity. These are my people, this is my kind of thing, and competition, which is these are my people and I want to win against the other ones.
Well, it's like I identify with this group,
Mhm.
and so I want to fight for that group and just prove that, like, my group is good.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's part of human nature.
It is, but here's the thing though, Stan. I think it is maybe 60, 70, 80, 90% of people seem to be motivated by a competitive edge, but not everybody is. And I speak that because I really do think that I have very little of that in me. Some in me, but
Yeah, I mean,
very little
of course, I guess some people don't.
Right.
But it's like, you look at sports and it's like you root for the team that's in your city. Right. So
I
like a
never
lot of
did.
people root for the team in their city, even if they're gonna lose, you root
5XM,
for
do you
them,
have any
and
FAQ
you
anywhere?
really want them to win.
No, I don't think.
Screw the other guys.
I don't
When I was
get
10 years
questions
old, I was a
frequently
junior
asked
angel.
and
Means that I could pay
frequently asked.
$10 and
It's
for a whole
usually
season,
something
I get
unique
to go
every
to
time.
10 games at the Anaheim Stadium.
What are your
And I used to go
questions?
there by
I'd be happy
myself.
to
My dad would
answer.
drop me off, and then he'd pick me up out at the corner of Catalan State College. You never do that now, but I would be there the whole evening alone. I just never cared whether my team won. I
So
just
that's-
was interested in the game, and when there was a good player who did really good, I remember that was the thing that excited me most. But
Did you ever root for someone when you're watching some, like, two teams or people competing, like during the Olympics or whatever it is? You don't root for anyone? Like, oh, come on, go, do it, beat them, whatever. You don't get
Yeah,
that
but see,
emotion?
I'm bringing this around too much to myself.
No, I'm asking you.
The answer is no.
no. You don't.
I have never cared who won any game. I just have never cared. And I know that I'm missing something. I know I'm missing something in doing that. But I have never followed sports. I've never watched the Olympics. I've never cared
You've
about
never watched the
No,
Olympics.
and I have never tuned in for more than a few minutes to the Academy Awards. I hardly ever cared.
Oh,
who
that's
won the
different. You're not
Academy.
watching them compete. You're watching them get their trophies.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's-
But
that's
still,
different.
everybody's like, "Oh, good. My movie won over the other ones." I felt a little bit that way at times, but still, this is too
Was
much
wondering what your end goal
about
is. A
Marshall's
game?
lack of
An animated
concern
short
about who
film?
wins. We need to bring it back.
Well, the main goal is to
Identity
have
versus
fun, to be fair,
competition.
but the whole point of the journey is for me to grow as a video game creator. I want to transform into someone that can create a good game. Hopefully I can have a good game at the end. I might not be able to do it, so this is why I'm not saying this is my end goal,
Something you care
but hopefully there is.
because you probably just don't care about sports.
I don't care about.
Not sure if my answer
Care
makes
about other
sense,
things.
but I hope
I
it
do
did.
care about the beauty of athletes in motion and that kind of thing. Oh gosh, that's a marvel.
This is why I'm
We
taking
will
my
understand
time
this.
Okay, take your time.
with
What do
wait,
you
let
care
me
about?
pause
You
this.
care-
This is why I'm taking my time with learning and practicing stuff, skills. Because I enjoy it more than anything. Like, what's the point of making a game if I'm not enjoying it? And also why I'm doing YouTube, because I might take a long time before I finish the game. Because I like to take my time and learn and grow first. Because if I'm not capable of being the kind of person that makes a good game, I will not be able to make a good game. So that comes first. 5XM. I'll just call you 5. 5 says, even if you don't end up with a final product, you will still have the skills to get into other projects or even a career in the game industry. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I already come from a career of from the game industry. I've been doing freelance for 2 years in multiple agencies. I've worked on like over 20 games. But I want to be able to make a game like my whole vision is I want to be a kind of person that if you like close the space around me, I'll be able to create a good game, no matter the conditions. That's the kind of person I would love to be. I hope that makes sense. Like, not just like I worked as a freelance programmer for games, and I feel just being a programmer isn't enough to make any kind of game. Like, you could make good games, don't get me wrong, but being an animator, being an artist helps. Being a composer helps a lot with your decisions and with your knowledge on making games, really. And it's fun. I enjoy it. No. Hey, Pepsi, welcome to the stream. Man, this is difficult. See.
Care about students.
I do.
You care about learning. So, has there ever been like the students against something else? Like the school isn't doing something for the students, and so you're rooting for the students, and you're just like, we gotta beat that faculty, whatever.
Just absolute contempt, hatred, and motivated.
You feel it.
Found it. You found the thing.
Yeah.
You
But
feel that.
That is a different thing than competition.
kind of.
That is
Somebody
I think,
wins in the end, right?
I remember when I thought my son was threatened when he was very small, 2 or 2.5, and I remember feeling a sense of
Well, yeah,
adrenaline rush.
that's different. That's parenting. You're just trying to keep your son safe.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, but
that's
why
different,
are we doing this? Is this a
this is my
psychological
own
analysis of
side
Marshall?
trip. This is for my own.
We have
personal-
strayed so far away from Daniel Coyle's book.
Oh, we have.
But I know I initiated it. But the reason I initiated it is because the thing that was important about this to me was students care about role models who are
no.
similar.
I'm doing the wrong
Because it
one.
gives them a kind of
No.
permission, or as he says, an ignition to say, let's see who's best at this. I think that my side is better at this, and
Yeah.
both of them can bring out good. Now, let's get to the example in the book that I love
Of ignition?
of ignition. Yeah, one of the phenomena he pointed it out is that one person breaks the 4-minute mile because it was thought to be physically impossible to break.
And then
a
everyone
1-minute
does
mile.
it next year.
and then it starts breaking over and over and over and over because now we've
Okay,
got
there we go.
Permission to do
break
better.
Yeah.
That's so, yeah, I know, right? That's weird, huh?
Isn't it a trip?
It's kind of strange. I've always wondered, like, why do in the Olympics every time I watch swimming, it's like a new world record? Like, why do they keep beating each other? Like, are they really, like, humans really getting better and better at swimming? Like, or is it just that
But
now everyone has a new, better goal while they're not at the Olympics, and so they're
Yes.
going for that goal, not the goal over here.
everybody is getting better because
Yeah, right.
I'm told that this happened with music performance. That there were great pianists in history, but we'll never know because there were no recording at the time of Beethoven or even the late Romantics. As soon as recording came in, all sorts of things changed in the 20th century. 20th century is the most amazing musical phenomenon ever for the blossoming and flowering of styles. But also, I'm told, Robert Greenberg mentioned it in one of his courses, that once people started hearing what other pianists could do, other musicians could do, it upped the ante. And so now it's going to get better and better and better. And that is happening on a drawing scale.
Drawing scale?
Yes,
What does that mean?
because once Kim Jong-gi gets put on video, now everybody...
I'm starting to see people that remind me of Kim Jong-un.
It's happening all over the place. And it took somebody to say, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I used to have arguments with teachers.
That no, you can't?
To
or
draw,
are you saying that yes, everyone can?
I was saying that if you learn form and you learn it, if you learn what the thing's made of, anatomy, and you learn form, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to draw anything of imagination if you've got it in your imagination.
Right.
And it used to turn into arguments that I thought were absurd. But I couldn't draw that way to so it's like, you can't do it.
Yeah, show us.
Yeah. And now, even right when he emerged, there were several people. I even tried my hand at it a few times, and I could tap into it for a minute.
Yeah.
To where it's going to flow out. But sometimes it takes the animal standing up on their hind legs, and other ones saying, "Can we do that?" And then, I think we can do that. And then everybody starts standing up on their hind legs.
Right.
There are a lot of streaming services out there that focus on entertaining you. But today's sponsor, Wondrium, sets itself apart from the rest. That's because they provide you with thousands of hours of entertaining and educational content that covers a huge range of topics. With Wondrium, you can explore thousands of hours of fascinating video and audio content in the form of documentaries, tutorials, travelogues, and more. With Wondrium, you can learn about famous novelists like Jane Austen, or you can explore the secret world of mushrooms. I've personally been looking at the
Secret
Think Like a
World of
Stoic
Mushrooms?
series. It's a comprehensive look at the history of Stoicism from Marcus Aurelius to the modern day, and even clears up some common misconceptions about Stoics. Best of all, it focuses on taking this ancient wisdom and shows you how you can apply it to today's world. If you're wondering about Wondrium, you're in luck, because they've got a special limited time offer. Draftsman listeners will get their first year for just $99 when they use our special URL, wondrium.com/draftsman.
My wrist hurts.
That's wondrium.com/draftsman. This offer won't last, so check it out today. Therapy can be a great way to manage your mental health, but in a busy world, it can be difficult to fit into your day-to-day schedule. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, a service that aims to make therapy accessible and convenient by offering affordable counseling that you can access securely right from your smartphone or computer. With BetterHelp, you can find licensed counselors specializing in a variety of mental health topics like depression, anger, and anxiety. Whatever you'd like to focus on, you can get in touch with the right therapist for your needs and communicate with that therapist in the format that you'd feel most comfortable in. Want to just text somebody? BetterHelp has you covered. Are video chats more your thing? BetterHelp can do that too. Convenience and quality is something BetterHelp wants to focus on, and if you end up not liking the service for any reason, you're free to cancel at any time. Draftsman listeners can try BetterHelp and get 10% off their first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/draftsman. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/draftsman.
Before I read the talent code,
Mhm.
I'd watched Dogtown and Z-Boys at least 8-9 times.
Mhm.
And so when he brought them up on my first reading 6 years ago, and then I used them as an example for one of my recommendations on this podcast a year or so ago. The
Yeah.
Dogtown and Z-Boys are a perfect example of both the identity and competition,
Yeah.
because they had an identity. We are the punks who did
And we want to
school.
prove that we're good.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's because we are the poor kids. We are the kids who are not good in school. We are
Yeah.
the surfers. We are the punks. So they had an identity.
There's a thing of like, I want to prove everyone wrong. Everyone thinks we suck, but we don't.
And I don't know why, because I was not a rebel like them. I don't know why it appeals to me so much to see these guys succeed.
Maybe you root for the underdog all the time.
I was when I was watching that, I was thinking, yeah. But there's another thing. It's competition on the outside, but there was competition within them.
Of course.
And when you watch that documentary, it is really clear that who rises to the top of the pecking order of this group within us, I am the one in charge. I am the one who, like Cody, can look at the other ones and go, and they all say, yeah, but let me retreat and come back and see if I can do better. Jay Adams alone is just a phenomenon. And he mentions him in here, and how with the Z-Boys, when they went to compete in Del Mar, how he even used the word that they blew everyone else out of the water. He used some metaphor like that they showed all the disciplined kids how good they were because they were so in love with skateboarding. I get very excited about that. I get excited about the Dallas Singers. I get excited about the people who are not necessarily in a competitive game. Certainly the Dogtown and Z-Boys were. He calls them hotbeds.
Mm-hmm. Hotbeds is like a group of people somewhere that all of a sudden there's an explosion of highly skilled, talented people that's like all in one place. It's because there was an external trigger towards that one group.
And I have seen enough hotbeds, some of them huge, some of them not so huge, but still effective, in the years that I've been teaching college students in different schools. I've seen enough of them to where when he goes at this and says, let's look at what they have in common and identify specific traits that create hotbeds.
What are those traits?
One of them is identity. One of them is what you mentioned, the competition thing. One of them is patience. One of them is that when the Korean golfers or the Russian tennis players, when one person breaks through, then it takes a few years. When Octavia Butler becomes a celebrated science fiction writer, then there's going to be more and more and more, but it takes a few years, and that was the patience thing. That you do not become talented in 6 months or a year. You do not become exceptional in 6 months of a year. He estimated it was 3 to 4 to 5 years, where once ignition takes, it takes this time for it to happen, and it's not working harder. It's working harder at the right things. And that proof that 20 minutes of practice a day can make you better than an hour and a half of practice, and that you can show on a chart. Yeah, depending on how you chart. That means that if you want to create a hotbed within your friends, you do the things that you get. Should I have not used that metaphor?
This sounds like an orgy.
I know it does.
Go ahead, keep going.
If you want to create a hotbed of talent within the people that you hang around with, to make it a series, to read this book, my gosh, if you're creating community of people that you want to get good at, to read this book over a period of a month and discuss it and ask how it relates to how you're doing your anatomy studies and your form studies and your composition studies and your choosing of technique. I remember when I used to talk about that you understand substance before you understand style. Because style comes later. Style is a surface. And then Skip says on that documentary, well, to us, style was everything. And I thought, okay, just Marshall, back off. What does he mean? And sure enough, those skateboarders each had a style that gave them an identity. Says, I am part of this group and I'm good at this kind of skateboarding. So that even that within your group of people that you're getting better with. I had 3 siblings who were all homeschooled. They were all art students at the junior college. They were all exceptional, and they all did fantasy sci-fi art, and each one of them had their own specific kind. One was only cute. One was more edgy. One was more cartoony. One was more rendered. They had a way that they made a spectrum of themselves so that as siblings, they were a team, and each one played a wheel.
Yeah, but they had already gotten good at the hard skills, right? He actually, in his other book, the Little Book of Secrets, he goes into hard skills versus soft skills.
Tell us the difference.
It's basically like in art where we talk about like the fundamentals.
Those are the hard skills.
Those are the hard skills. This is what everyone needs to learn. It's the same for everyone.
Because they're the core.
They're the core.
Yeah, okay.
And the soft skills are
Nice.
like the things that make up your style.
Yeah, yeah.
You could, they're the things that you can interpret in whatever way you want.
Yeah.
Right? Hard skills, you can't just like do it in your own way. Perspective is perspective. You
Yeah.
can't choose to put vanishing points over there just because you feel like it's your style. That's not how it works.
It's a little more complex than that. But
It's
not
kind of, but that's
important.
what it, I mean, you kind of get it. There's,
One of these students had a more flat and cartoony style, which would mean the perspective might not have been as important to them.
true, but they still understand the hard skill. They still they still had the hard skill of correct perspective.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
but
They
think
didn't know
about
how to.
When you were doing decorative stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that you may not need it as much, but it really isn't important because if you're,
Okay.
as soon as you're going to work in spatial, where you're going to compose characters in space, characters that have anatomy, characters that can be on a ground plane or flying through and they look credible, then you're going to need perspective at that point. But you're right. I do understand that they each here was their hard skill. They each had discipline. They each really poured themselves into their work and cared about their work. So that's where they were all united. And the interesting thing to me is they were all united by the same genre, but it was a different manifestation of the genre. All of this goes back to the lesson, which is within your group of talent to claim territory. Like when you see teams work, so-and-so's the best hitter. This one's the best pitcher. This is the best for running, and each one's got your skill. There's been movies, even some movies that aren't that great, where you see people work, in a heist or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Each one
You
does
got the
their
programmer,
work.
the hacker,
Yeah.
who's behind like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Cameras
yeah.
are off.
That's
Doors
it.
are open. You got 2 minutes, and then
Yeah.
the person's coming into the ceiling because
Yeah.
they know gymnastics. Yeah, those are the good movies, though. We didn't really talk about myelin.
Now, and explain what it is to a person who doesn't know what myelin is.
Okay, well, it's a chemical in your brain, or it is a chemical, right? So basically, you have neural pathways, and as you do some action, your brain fires a neural pathway. It's a series of neurons, right? And every time you fire that same pathway, meaning every time you practice the same thing, whatever it is, a gestural stroke, an S curve, a C curve, whatever, that neural pathway gets coded in more and more myelin. And the more myelin is on that neural pathway, the faster it gets, the more efficient it gets. What? Why are you smiling?
Because that means the more you're gaining talent.
Yes. You're wiring your brain to be talented.
Yeah.
Yes. You're just wired a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're reinforcing that pathway. And so your brain, in order to make sure it doesn't lose that pathway, kind of solidifies it with more myelin. Right? It's like, oh, this is something I do often, so let's just like make sure it stays like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just keep reinforcing it. But also, he says that to encourage myelin growth in your brain, you need to do new things constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just do things that you're already good at, the pathways that are already like engulfed in myelin, you're not really growing much myelin at that point. Like doing new things beyond what you're currently good at and fixing mistakes is what's going to create these new pathways and add more myelin. So.
Yeah. So what it comes down to is that you can see under a microscope talent developing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that you can see these rats and these rats were given different sets of problems, and the ones who had tougher problems to get what they want, their brains actually change. And the same way with musicians that are constantly working on problems, their brains develop talent.
Yeah.
So it becomes now objective and measurable and not something to argue. That we can see that muscles grow if you do these things. And neural pathways grow if you do these things.
Right.
And that can be very encouraging. Because now you know I have control over it. Or no, I don't have control over it. I have a great deal of influence on it.
Right.
Almost to the point of control over it.
Yes. He focuses on like, okay, deep practice is the way to get myelin.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Your food, by the way. Food
gets
destroys
rid of
myelin. Food puts myelin to sleep. It's an injection.
It does. No, it doesn't get rid of myelin. It just closes the entry to the freeway. He says myelin, the neural pathways are like highways, right? The bigger the highway, the faster and more efficient the cars can get through. You want traffic jams. Food, specifically bad food, is the opposite.
Right,
It's
I
a
guess that's it
traffic
for
jam.
today's stream.
Yeah.
And see you guys next
yes, if
time
you've
on
got
Dragon
if
Ball
you've
Z.
got wilderness, particularly jungle wilderness.